What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am BDLM, coming to you with my buddy J4Y, bringing you episode number 37 of our Dota On Demand podcast. What is going on, man?
What's going on? Oh god, let's see if I can do this. I'm wearing my new Dota 2 shirt. Oh,
nice.
I'm trying to show it off in front of the camera, but it's really hard when your camera's tiny. Okay, well, there it is. It's awesome. I got it apparently from a guy in China, who I think just like used one of those shirt sites and just designed it and sent it to me. It kind of looks like Sharpie, but just a tiny bit better. So
there you go.
Don't worry, it's pretty impressive. And considering the progress you've made on our Dota On Demand shirts for the international, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, back to square. But yeah.
Back to square.
Back to square. Good timing. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm good. That's a long-winded way to say it. How are you?
Fantastic.
How are you doing?
I'm tired of Dota for the day. Actually, it took me five and a half hours to try and cast 3 games today, and it didn't even go so hot. Casting some games for RDTL. I'm gonna put the VODs up. The sound quality I'm gonna put a little bad, but if anybody actually knows how to fix that, that'd be fantastic. Because apparently I tried doing local recordings, and my mic sounded terrible in those, but it sounded fine elsewhere. So if any of you XSplit or computer wizards would like to message us with how I fixed that problem, that would be fantastic. But here nonetheless, and
ready to get this under wraps way. So
yes.
Yeah, so you want to just go into what we're going to discuss this week, or this episode, I guess?
I guess I will. We are going to re-announce. We mentioned last week that we were going to be changing our name to something Dota Talk related, most likely the Dota Talk Show. And but we're going to keep telling you guys about that for a couple weeks just to make sure everybody knows and can make the transition if you like. So we will keep you posted about the details on that. We're also going to be talking a little bit more about Naga Siren, getting to see some interesting stuff out of her lately. And also, even though it was a 3-hero patch, we're just going to do 1 hero tonight. We're going to do the hero that me and Jay were kind of most interested in joining in the pool, and that is the Keeper of the Light.
He does, in fact, do a great job keeping light, and I think that's important to know, especially in the times of the Olympics when light is a very valuable source to have. You know, the torch guy.
Okay.
That's where I'm getting. You understand?
Right.
You should have gotten that reference, but I feel like. But in case you guys don't know, spoiler: there's Olympics going on right now.
Spoiler alert.
In London. If you ever walk through the streets, like, oh hey, there's a stadium. You know, that's what it is. So
a lot of random flags waving, and you're like, what's all this about?
Well,
yeah.
There's so many people here.
Well, I actually was watching some games today. Got to before I had my casting craziness,
yes.
And saw some actually really interesting things come up on Naga Siren a couple times. And in the one it was actually in EG versus LGD. Radiance picked up, as well as an Aquila ring, Tranquil Boots, and Soul ring.
Say those again.
Okay, are you listening this time?
Oh, I was listening last time. I just didn't want to believe it. Just say it again.
Okay, Soul ring.
Yes.
Ring of Aquila.
Yes.
And Tranquil Boots. The starting build is 2 Ring of Protections. And then some other stuff. But I was just like, huh. And I can't stand how much I love that idea.
I can't stand how much you love it either. Because that means that you might try it in an actual game. I'll give it that it's unique. I will 100% give it that. And Tranquil Boots, yeah, I am not a fan of that on an AGI carry pretty much ever. The only exception AGI hero, besides Vengeful Spear, besides support AGIs, is Lone Druid. I will only give it to him to have that item. I don't like it on a normal carry just because I feel like the other boots serve them so much better for chasing or hunting or killing or surviving. Whereas Tranquil Boots are for chasing, like getting an initiation, I feel like, or sustaining in a lane. And I guess I could see where you're coming from in that aspect, but that just seems like a lot of lane focus. All 3 of those items are all about the lane, more or less.
Yeah, I think I could agree with you on that. I mean, I think the Ring of Aquila becomes really important in other parts of the game as well, but I think it's neat because that's sort of the neat part of running Soul Ring with Tranquil Boots, too, is you're doing damage to yourself to get mana, and then you can use mana to heal yourself, and then you still have some extra mana left over, which is kind of nice. But that's one thing that I always kind of had a problem with Naga Siren. It's like you go right for that Diffusal Blade, right? And then, yeah, eventually you get hard or whatever, but for the lane, like, how do you expect to stay alive and stay in there? And that was actually, I thought, a really good kind of answer for that. If you don't need the arcane boots, I mean, obviously, I think you need somebody else on your team to be able to get those arcane boots. One of your support heroes, if they're looking to try and get those for your team, that'd be fantastic. But
Teacher, I have an answer.
okay,
Not that he's one of course, like the few, like the 8 heroes left that have to be in the pool, but still, I'm going to reference him. That build, I think, would do really well on Bristleback. I like that build on Bristleback because he gets a lot of armor to tank up. He gets tons of mana and regen, which he is a spammer. He is definitely a Class A spammer of spells. And yeah, there you go. That was pretty cool. And Naga Siren is not so much. She has a couple abilities, but one's 40-second cooldown, one's a 10-second cooldown, and the net's like 8. I don't actually know the net one. Sorry. I was pretty good on everything except to the net. But, I actually have her open right now. It's a 14-second cooldown. I can actually look at my screen. So she has pretty long cooldowns, all things considered. So I think that's a lot of mana for not as much casting as other heroes. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that much mana. Maybe take out either the Soul Ring or the Band of Aquila. I don't mind Tranquil Boots as much, I guess, but I think that's just overkill with mana regen for her.
I see. I definitely, like, I don't think we mentioned the Radiance last week, but that is a really good thing to bring up because the illusions can spread out that Radiance burn, so you can actually sort of, almost like the bear, you can just send out your illusions that you generate and just go push a lane while you're in a much more safe area, and your illusions can actually attack and help farm the lane while you're being safe.
Yeah, Phantom Lancer sometimes when you see him, first of all, when he goes Radiant, second of all. So I guess it's like 1 in a million chances, but when these odds are played and like he's farming a jungle, he'll send one of those illusions off to a lane just to let the Radiance burn, like, destroy the lane more or less. Because those illusions last a decent amount of time from his procs, but I've seen something along those lines, so I think I can see where you're coming from with the illusion thing, but yeah, no, Radiance on Naga Siren seems very trollerific, is the way I want to put it.
Trollerific.
Anyone that is squishy as hell should not, and doesn't have a good way to survive. Okay, actually, that sounds stupid, because I contradicted myself. She has a great way to survive. But,
yep.
Okay,
yeah,
very, very contradicting here. Okay,
it's okay. I'll let you back out of that corner. I'll let you get this walk by. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that's certainly something you'd want to go every game by any means. I think the Diffusal Blade with the I think you could obviously pair that with the Soul Ring Aquila / Tranquil Boot combo if you wanted to. But I think I like that more often than not. But I can definitely see situations in which the Radiance could be very effective. So yeah, I thought that was just kind of interesting.
Radiance used to be in pubs back in Dota 1. Very, very common on Warlock, so just
really
throwing it out there. Yep. It was either Radiance or Maelstrom. Quick Maelstrom.
I can.
And he would push lanes hard. He would push lanes very hard, and he would win most one-on-one fights early on because his heal was pretty strong, and he could out-survive the carries early on. The Radiance, no, I don't understand why it happened, but it did, and I was one of the few who ran it proud and loud.
Is that like the Dazzlator?
It's yes, I would compare it to the Dazzlator build exactly. Something where
that actually makes a little bit more sense.
That makes a ton of sense. No, the Dazzlator makes perfect sense because it synergizes. The Radiance, I guess, if you put up your Fatal Bonds and then you do Radiance Burn to everyone, they all take a part of the damage. I suppose. Maelstrom would make more sense, I think, than Radiance. I would like that more. But
there you go. But also cool to note in the games that I watched today that the hero we're talking about today, Keeper of the Light, actually has already been banned out. I haven't seen him played yet, but did get banned out in MTW versus EG Game 1 as part of the defense.
Really?
Yeah, he's the very last ban.
Last ban?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question is, do you remember the first 3 picks?
Oh.
Well, that's a huge thing to remember, I think, if he's going to get last ban.
casually throwing that out there as
Well,
information.
but that could be so much more valuable if you had that missing piece I just said. Because you said EG versus MTW. We do our
Game
research on the cast, by the way. This is just something you guys have to accept as
Oh.
viewers. You know,
Well, Jay does. I actually did this research,
except
so
not all of
I
it,
don't necessarily
apparently,
have to do
so
it
that's
right now.
fine.
So, but yeah, it was kind of interesting. So you can go check that out. And I guess while you're doing that, I might as well just go through the Keeper of the Light spells, yeah?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah! Okay. Q ability, Illuminate. You stand there, you charge up for seconds, which increase as you rank it up. Does a ton of damage in a line, 400 width, 1600 range. It's kind of big. Does damage to siege creeps as well as regular creeps, as well as heroes, obviously. You can actually cancel this early, recast it again, hit your Q, and that will just send it out. And of course, it gains strength as you charge it. Anyway, Mana Leak. You can cast it on an enemy hero and drain their mana per 100 units moved. So it's sort of like Bloodseeker Ultimate, but with mana. And it will also stun the target if they run out of mana. Stun duration and stuff goes up as you rank it up. Chakra Magic restores mana. That's pretty simple. You are an ally, just gives you mana back. Yeah. And then your ultimate spirit form is actually sort of like a... Reminds me of Alchemist Ultimate, actually, because the time you spend out of it is very small once you get the ability. At rank 3, 60-second cooldown lasts 40 seconds. So, yeah. And it unlocks some additional abilities for you. Recall allows you to teleport a friendly unit to yourself if they take any player-based damage or any damage at all. It will go on cooldown. Yeah, any damage at all. It will actually just put the move on cooldown. The person will not teleport to you. So they have to be safe. You get Blinding Light, which is a knockback that does not cancel spell casting. And also gives an 80% miss chance. And then your Illuminate does something special in your spirit form, in which it basically makes a point from which your Illuminate is cast from. So you can sort of cast it, and then you can keep running around instead of sitting there and channeling it. And it will launch from that position when you decide to launch it by hitting your Q again, or when the time reaches the maximum channel duration.
Correct. That is
Yay.
all of his abilities.
That is every
I'm so
single
proud
one.
of you knowing all of those by reading them. That's wonderful.
I'm the best.
Sometimes people would say that. Yeah, so obviously an interesting hero, very commonly compared to our good friend, Mr. Gandalf from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, obviously he looks very similar to him, donning the white robe and gown as well as the beard. Actually, Gandalf, I guess, wore gray, didn't he?
He started and then he changed.
Oh, true, he became the white wizard.
Gandalf the White.
Oh, spoiler for... we just spoil all over the place. Sorry, if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings series or read it, then...
Which have been out for like a decade now.
Well, now it's too late. You know what happens to Gandalf. So, and that name probably means a lot to you if you haven't seen it. So there you go, ruined. But yeah, he's actually pretty sweet. And I guess while I say that, I might as well mention they have in fact played around with some jokes with his lines involving Gandalf.
Which is fantastic.
So let's see. One of Man League's cast responses is "You shall not cast." And then, I believe he also says you shall not pass... Oh no, someone says that to him if he dies. But I don't remember who, so I'm sorry. I don't have all... This is like the half information thing. I just threw it back at you to show you how ineffective it could be if you only have half the answer. Sorry, it's not
Did you find the answer to your thing or no?
No. Because I'd have to look through all the VODs, and I just don't care.
Fantastic.
It probably was
I'm
more
glad
of a
your
troll
research
ban
is so
than anything.
effective.
I bet it was more than anything. Because he's not ban-worthy. I'm sorry. He's never ban-worthy. No, not in Everton. I'm not saying he's a terrible hero. I'm saying he's not ban-worthy. So, there you be.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it could...
I could contest.
Well, I'm glad. I would love to hear these arguments coming forward.
Illuminate, fantastic pushing potential because it also damages siege creeps, which not a whole lot of things do. Just completely obliterate creep waves, especially once you get it up to the rank before. And then just his ability to support someone in the lane is absurd. Especially, and I was actually, the teams I cast earlier today was just talking with them and their captains about just, I was like, LOL, oh hey guys, which of the new heroes are you going to pick? And we just started talking about KotL. It's like, yeah, a great hero to pair with Chaos Knight. Because especially if you're doing that build that we see in like the professional scene where it's 4 on the Q, 4 on the W, and then you just skip everything else until those are maxed out. His only issue then is mana. And so if you have somebody there casting that chakra magic, just keeping the mana pool up, he can be very devastating in the lane. And especially once your Chaos Knight starts getting levels into the stun, where he can get the chance with a 4-second stun, that can guarantee that your high damage Illuminate is actually going to hit. I mean, it can do up to 500 damage at the last rank if you're able to charge it for 5 seconds. And while obviously in the laning phase that's not going to be possible, but if you're still guaranteeing that you're hitting 1 or 2 heroes for 200 or 300 damage, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, obviously, I think the two big, well, okay, two like most common big things on him are that Illuminate, like you said, to push lanes and do some good harass if you can catch people off guard, which happens a lot more in pubs than it does in pro games, I'm sure, but still it can happen because it's a huge radius as well as distance. It's a 1600 distance total, so that's pretty large and in charge. And then, of course, like you said, the Chakra Magic, I mean, obviously, it can restore 300 at the last rank, so that's like a couple that might be like someone's full arsenal of spells at the last rank, just giving that fully back to him. And like you said, when you pair him with like usually a damage dealer or strength or agility that has trouble with mana, like obviously it makes more sense. You said Chaos Knight. My favorite combo is Tiny and KotL. That one is just beautiful. Oh yes, oh yes. Now the reason I like that one, and actually it's funny because I casted a series. It was really one-sided, unfortunately. It was in the Reddit League, but one team did pick the KotL Tiny, but they played it all wrong, which was disappointing. They played it as a tri-lane where Tiny was supporting with KotL. They were both supporting an anti-mage. It was awful. No, it was awful. It was stupid, and I was very upset because I was like, I love that as a duo lane. Maybe throw someone else to support the Tiny, but Tiny needs the farm. But that's a different story. The reason I like KotL and Tiny is obviously the Chakra Magic. He's very mana intensive, doesn't have a big mana pool, and he can stun someone with Avalanche for a pretty long duration, and then even toss him in place, so he can keep someone in the same place for probably upwards of 3 or 4 seconds easily, and then that's plenty of time for Illuminate to charge up and hit for its full damage. So those two reasons alone are pretty big for why that could work well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that that's kind of a weird tri-lane, but I do actually really do like KotL for the tri-lane. I mean, just because 400 is pretty much the width of the lane. Like, you have to try to not hit people unless they're going to like go to the very outskirts of the lane to try and get out of it. And it's something that becomes fairly spammable when you consider that Chakra Magic is going to stop you from running out of mana. So you're going to be able to keep up the mana at all times to be able to keep illuminating. And so it's sort of even like a thing where with Cold Feet on Ancient Apparition, like even if you're not hitting the people with it, you're just forcing them to run away from the creeps as well, which is something that can deny them farm, deny them experience.
It's also the highest damage level 1 spell in the game, and well, non-ultimate, and it's also AoE on top of that. So highest damage plus AoE potential, which is why I do like him also to tri-lane or duo. I think he works well in both. Obviously, though, duo, he has to support someone that has like CC and is able to cast a lot of spells. So, but definitely interesting in that. And then Mana Leak, which is kind of we haven't given much love because it's pretty interesting. It's not as amazing, I think, as his other abilities, but it is a neat idea, and also the fact that it lasts 7 seconds at last rank means that's a long time someone wouldn't be moving, which you would figure in that time they're going to have to move otherwise, and that can drain a heap of mana. I mean, a whole heap of mana. I don't have the math, and I'm not going to do it, but basically, well, I see the percent, but 100 units, you can't measure that. And that's actually, you literally could measure it, but I'm not going to. So it's a lot. Let's just say it's a lot.
Okay.
And then it also stuns if they run out of mana, which against heroes like Tide or Vengeful or supports that don't have a big mana pool, that's really easy to get them to get through their mana. So I think a pretty awesome move in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like you're saying, it's just great against heroes that aren't going to be able to get a lot of stats too. And then, yeah, I mean, if it lasts for 7 seconds, you have to run and potentially stun yourself, or just drain yourself completely of mana, making you worthless in the lane as I turn into a rectangle.
Back to normal.
Yes, of course. But the other thing I do really like about him when you're just considering the lane, like obviously, by the time you're getting to be level 6, the lane might be breaking down a little bit. But the Spirit Form teleport, let's even just, or the recall, let's just say the easiest possible use of it, right? Someone TP's back to base because they get harassed, take a lot of damage, they need to go back, whatever. You pull them back. You cut out a lot of time that they would potentially be wasting, or you can pull somebody from another lane if you want to push all of a sudden. If they have the opportunity to leave their lane, you can just get over here, buddy. Let's see what we can do to this tower. I mean, I think there are a lot of really good uses for that, even though it can be interrupted. It's not quite as good as the Holy Persuasion by Chen, obviously, but definitely has, I think, some really good uses.
Also, a thing to point out for people just learning this hero, if you click the ability on the mini-map, the nearest ally is what it will do. So you don't even have to go over to him on the map, click his hero. You could just click on the mini-map near him and it's going to do it, which is really helpful to do it in a pinch, because otherwise that would be pretty annoying. So that's pretty cool as well. Yeah, I like it. That just adds to his pushing kit, why he is also a good pusher. Like you were saying early on, even at level 6. Let's say you have somehow a Nature's Prophet on your team too. Now you go into a lane, you teleport a really strong person from mid or bottom, and then you just take top without them even having a chance to react. It's just so simple. So yeah, definitely a lot of potentials with that. It is really easy to get interrupted if the other person takes damage, like it said. So there has to be a lot of ankle breaking or something if you're trying to save someone. But otherwise, I think it's pretty okay.
Yeah, and I mean too. I think you were going to mention something about this too with the Illuminate. If you happen to be playing a support and you're in the woods a lot, either pulling creeps or checking on the rune, you can just sit in the woods and then pull somebody in from another lane to give yourself a third hero to gank with, and then look to take a push from there. He's a very utility-based hero, and I was reading just some guides about him, and someone mentioned he's completely item independent. He doesn't need them at all to be a very functional force throughout the entire scope of the game. He's a support hero that doesn't fall off.
Yes, that is actually a pretty good way to put it. I like it. Yeah, he's always going to be helpful. All of his moves, his Illuminate will do tons of damage throughout the whole game, just because it's 500. I mean, that's just enormous throughout any point in the game. 500 AoE on top of that. Mana Leak, draining mana is always helpful, of course, when you're trying to go about things. And I guess a stun on top of that, why not? Chakra Magic, who doesn't need mana in fights? And then obviously the Spirit Form stuff, we already discussed the recall. Blinding Light didn't give it a lot of discussion, but also can be pretty helpful throughout the game. I mean, besides the fact that it, I believe it'll interrupt. It does not interrupt channel. Interrupt. You're right. It does not interrupt channel. Still knocks back people though, as well as makes them have an 80% miss chance, which is pretty high. So that's pretty helpful in the long run. And then of course the Illuminate Spirit Form allows him to keep doing things while laying that channel on the side. So. He's just a crap load of fun to play. I'm serious. I haven't found any other support I like to play nearly as much as KotL.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I think is really cool about the Blinding Light, like you said, we didn't really give it a whole lot of love, and I think that's really the one thing that KotL really lacks in, is he just doesn't have any kind of crowd control, except for if they run themselves out of mana. Mm-hmm. And then we'll succumb to the fairly short stun. I believe it's 2.2 seconds at the last rank. 2.2 seconds, so... aside from that, he can't really interrupt or do anything. But the 80% miss chance, it's okay, you're a strong pusher. But then if it gets to the part of the game where hard pushing isn't as important and it starts becoming much later to the point where late game carries are starting to take over, Blinding Light, 80% miss chance. What's up? It's fantastic.
Indeed. By the way, people tuning in, if you have any questions about KotL, feel free to pop them our way. We'll try our best to answer them, but... No guarantees. But what were you going to ask me?
Tell me about this game that our buddy Terps played.
Oh,
because
yes.
I know you mentioned me earlier, you're I got to talk about this because LOL.
Oh, God. Okay, well, first of all, Terps came on. He messaged me bragging about this epic first KotL game he has, going 12, 2, and 12 or something. And I'm like, okay, in a pub, yes, I can see these things happening with a 500 damage AoE nuke, but let's go on. And I decided to just watch the game to see what happened. And the first thing right away I noticed was that he laned duo with Disruptor. And I never thought about this combination until it happened. And there's a few reasons why that is a fantastic combo. First of all, Disruptor does a pretty good amount of damage himself with just his Thunderstrike ability. Recall, number one reason why this works so well, is the fact that someone's like, oh god, he's charging the lasers, and so they start running. Oh, glimpse. Oh boy, I'm back right in his scope. And they just have to take the full brunt of damage. And on top of that, he even has a way with the barrier, or the arcane wall, whatever the stupid name is, to, sorry, you've thrown me off now, making me call barrier, but anyways, yeah, you can basically force people to stay in place, so many ways he can synergize with the KotL, just those alone, is pretty fantastic.
That is actually pretty good. I like that a lot. I didn't even think about the glimpse.
Yes, the glimpse is the number one troll awesomeness with KotL. I just love to see it happen.
That is hilarious. And then yeah, if you could land the ultimate and the barrier with that's.
Also, I wonder if the knockback can knock people into the barrier.
These are the things.
These are the things. I think the pro should be on to this a lot more.
Knock people into Enigma ulti? Like, come on. How can you not?
Well, of course, Enigma and KotL on the same team makes perfect sense. If that could happen, that is rude.
Yeah, Naga Siren and KotL sleep everybody. Hold on, because it's 1600 range. You can sit well outside of being, under the effects and just charge up your lasers. Like, another great setup there.
Apparently, the viewer NVX says he has no questions, but he just wanted to say that he looks freaking sweet when channeling Illuminate. And I think that spell, they did a really good job with that animation. The horses going out, like it's once again like Gandalf leading that charge down the mountain. Spoiler.
Yep.
That happens.
Spoiler alert. Gandalf is in the movies. He does attacking.
He does stuff with horses. Yes. But yeah, I do have to agree that. I think animations in this game in general have been all pretty satisfying to watch for the most part. So.
That was something else I forgot to mention too when I was talking about Chaos Knight. KotL actually has flavor text with him when he's in the lane with him. He says like, "You better be on your best behavior, Chaos Knight," or something like that.
What?
Like, I love all these little hints. Like with some of the items you pick up, like, "Oh, mechanism." Like, "Oh, okay, I know to buy that now." That's apparently a good idea. And like, "Oh yeah, KotL CK."
It's about time, mechanism. Speaking of items, though, let's just jump into that because I think actually. Okay, I'm not going to say it's obvious, but they're pretty... Oh boy, you probably have some crazy ideas. Do you want to go first or you want me to?
I will just say that I love the recommended items.
Oh, no, I do too. Wow, we actually agree on that. Somehow we agree on that, yes.
Well, you know why I agree, because Tranquil Boots are involved.
No, I actually really love Tranquil Boots, because I've tried it. And it's beautiful. So, obviously, support, you will probably buy the Courier Rewards, that's just a given. But yeah, the reason why... Tranquil Boots are so fantastic. First of all, you don't need to worry about Arcane Boots, you have Chakra. So you don't have to worry about ever restoring mana for your team, yourself, whatever, you'll have that. So don't have to worry about Arcane Boots. Obviously, Phase Boots, I don't think KotL would benefit the most from those, since he's not much of an auto attacker. No, he could, but very few and far between instances where that would be helpful, unless he's like a shiny KotL. Anyone with a Radiance I call shiny, so you just have to learn that terminology.
Great.
But yeah, probably not going to happen. Treads, P-Treads, as some call them. Some call them Steve Boots and they're wrong, but they're P-Treads.
Some people do.
Idiots do. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, no, obviously, so Tranquil Boots, yeah, you'll sustain so well, which is why it's so nice to have them. You'll get a little bit of armor, the move speed to set up your whatever the hell you want to do. Just go to get in a position for your Illuminates, or to get in range of your mana leak to cast it. Things like that. Is that better? I think that's a better way to say it. And then, yeah, like I said, the sustain, so you can keep staying in lane and have no trouble worrying about buying consumables or anything.
Yeah, I mean, just Tranquil Boots in general. Make you tankier, give you sustainability. Now the cast is free because you have Chakra, you can just give yourself the mana back. And when you're playing support, a lot of times in the lane, you have to do a lot of moving around, which will often put you behind because you're not in range for experience a lot of times. And because they're so cheap, it lets you build towards other items like getting a mech or getting wards even, just making that easier for you to do. And so I think that's why they're just a spectacular choice. And yeah, I mean, like phase boots are nice on supports because you can harass and you can deny creeps a lot easier, but you can get the survivability through these boots and just run with it. And then you can also, like, obviously, again, the mana leak is something where it's okay to sort of gank with. And now you have, because you have that much speed, you can sort of move around a lot easier and try and set stuff like that up.
Well, now to mention Mana Leak, I have to mention the totally not troll item that you have to get on him. Force Staff.
Okay.
You need Force Staff, so when you put Mana Leak on someone, you push them similar to a Bloodseeker will, and you will force them to drain their mana, and then stun them.
Of course. See, what should happen is you should be able to do vertical movement as well, so you pick up Yule's Scepter of Divinity, you knock them up in the air, and that should count. But no, I think, like, obviously you're just general support items like Magic Wand. I do kind of like the getting Urn on them, even though mana's not really an issue. If you're silly like I am in your first couple games, you kind of run yourself out of mana because you forget that you can just give yourself mana. It's kind of nice to have, and of course you're going to be able to, like I was saying earlier, drag people to you with the recall. Help set up a lot of ganks and hopefully be a part of a lot of team fights to be able to get those charges up. And just because you're such a good pusher anyway, I think building him in a way that helps sustain pushes is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of questioning. I'm like, well, his Illuminate, where he gets most of his kills and stuff, his supports, is 1600 range, so you might not be in range for the charges, but it's a 1400 radius to get to pick up the charges from Urn, so it's probably still very feasible for that to happen, I guess. I think, yeah, like you said, Tranquil Boots, I think Mech is really nice, and it's also really... He's also, by the way, one of the only supports, maybe save Tidehunter, that can farm a lane so easily. Like, just having that Illuminate on pretty much no cooldown, infinite mana, is if you just need that little extra 300 cash, or even the jungle creeps, you can just charge up and pretty much one-shot a whole wave and like stack them yourself. So easy. Like, it's amazing. Like, he's got so much different potential. You know, I haven't even thought about this till now. Jungle KotL. Starting in the jungle, killing a neutral camp, pulling to get some more experience along the way. By the time you hit ranks 2 and 3, you'll do almost enough damage to pretty much kill a big camp.
Almost.
And then you set up ganks with your weight. You come in occasionally through the woods, no one's expecting you. And you just fire off an Illuminate. Like, what the hell just hit me? Yeah.
The one thing that I can say would be 100% sure, and what you just said, is that no one would be expecting it.
Yes.
That's interesting. I don't know.
I don't know how well it'll work. I don't.
Try it this week in a custom game, and then you can report back next week about all your shenanigans
there you go.
with Jungle KotL.
I will be the first of many. Yes.
First of many. Yeah, but no, like you said, that is kind of the fantastic part of me. You can actually farm.
Yeah.
Like, it's even if you have like nobody else in the lane, it can be difficult because, like, especially when you consider people like Crystal Maiden, it's just so hard to last it with anyway. I mean, yeah, she does have the Crystal Nova, which makes it a little bit easier, but sometimes it's just hard, even if you do have the lane all to yourself. But this way, you can just very easily snipe the yellow camp, especially like you were saying. Once you get the levels up on the Q ability there, the Illuminate. It's actually, you can build decent items, and it's almost like you can sort of get a Windrunner-esque farm without being a solo hero.
Yeah, definitely. You just have to be
build up
careful.
decent
The
items.
thing is, as a support, KotL, you have to be careful of two things. One, not stealing the farm or the carry if you're supporting one, and two, not pushing the lane too much with your spell, because that could definitely happen very easily. You want to try to hit your Illuminates so it's pretty much just hitting the heroes and not the creep waves for the most part, which is pretty hard to figure out, but just a broad example of how you can be really effective. If you are the Dire and you go bottom lane with an ally, a great way to set up kills is to the lane will most likely be near their tower. So that little bit of woods between you and the tower is a perfect way to set up charges. Unless they have a ward up there, which usually there's not enough vision right there, so they won't see you charging. You can catch people off guard pretty easily, and unless they're like all the way back in their jungle behind or below the tower, they're gonna most likely get hit by it. So it's a pretty good way to set up things there. Also, It's just basically the woods are your friends. I'll put it that way. Him and the woods get along very well.
Yeah, I would love to mess around with, especially tri-lanes. Like, the duo I think is pretty obvious, but, like, I could see him and Venomancer just being stupid because you hit level 4 and then you're just like, LOLOL, tier 1 tower dead.
Or
And then you can just keep it going. Yeah, Leshrac would also be a fantastic hero to pair with that. Of course, with Leshrac, it'd be nice if you had something to set up the stun, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers, right? There you go.
Obviously. Yeah, you're right.
You know, and that in a tri-lane setting too is kind of nice anyway, because if you're against another tri-lane, like, people aren't going to have all that much mana, so you can just
Well,
run
okay,
them
I guess
to
we'll
death.
get into level up abilities now because we haven't really said that. But I would say your first point will 90% of the time go into Illuminate, so you can do that big damage, catch people off guard, whatever you need to do with it. It's pretty powerful move. Now, going from there, what I've seen commonly done is to more or less at least put your next point in Chakra Magic, and then probably your third point into Chakra Magic so it gets more efficient. And then people go usually back and forth between Illuminate and Chakra, and then they maximize whichever they want first. And then I have seen the other build where people go like 1 point Illuminate, 1 point Chakra, and then Mana Leak. And like they kind of like throw. There's a lot of different builds. I'm not sure which one I find more or more effective, but I don't know. Do you have a specific preference?
Well, I just think it's interesting that you say that, because I feel like before on this, like I said, like there's some heroes where like everything is nice, and you don't know how to build them, but all of his abilities are so nice, it's like it doesn't matter. I mean, they're all fantastic. I don't really think you could argue for one particular way to build them over another, as long as you don't involve stats in the early parts of the game, right? I would max out Chakra Magic, put 1 point in the Illuminate, like you're saying, that level 1, and then just sit on that and have the Mana Leak as well. Just so, because, I mean, in my opinion, I would see him more as a utility hero, and because leveling up that Illuminate is going to make the lane push faster. So I think if you are playing that support role, you would want to max out the Mana Leak and the Chakra Magic first. And then, of course, 200 AoE damage, that's pretty sick. And it's a lot easier to land than if you're trying to charge up for 5 seconds with your wand and, you know.
That's the thing. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to compare it to, but like maximizing the Illuminate. Oh, maybe I was trying to compare it to like Soul Rip a little bit, in the sense that the more points you put into it, you might not get the most use out of it as much as the lower ranks of it. So, like, maybe not putting all 4 into Illuminate right away is the best option. Maybe put like 2 or 3, and then at least maximize probably Chakra first. Seems to be pretty common, just because 300 mana for even yourself or allies is just huge. It allows you to sustain in the lane so easily. And then maybe start putting points in Mana Leak. I mean, like I said, I think that 4th point Illuminate might be hard to gain the full benefit of. It's very possible, but yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a better point spent than maybe start going into Mana Leak or something else.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, it's situationally dependent. I think it's a lot like with Chen, like, do you level Test of Faith, or do you level the Q, which I can't remember the name of at the moment? Penitence. Penitence.
Oh, yes.
You know, well, do I need him for the burst damage, or do I need the slow? You know, is there enough damage coming out from other heroes that I can go for that utility? But yeah, I mean, if you're running a tri-lane and you're like, no, we need the damage, then sure, go ahead for the Illuminate, and hopefully the other 2 people in the lane can hold them still long enough that you can get a really long cast off, or other people on your team if it's not a tri-lane. But I think, by and large, I think you're right in saying that probably, like, I would probably put the most 2 points in it in the earlier parts of the game, because I just think your other abilities are really where you're getting your strength as a hero.
Yeah, for the laning phase. Yeah, I agree. I think 2 points, maybe the third. So that's all preference. That's more give or take. You know, you get a feel for it as you play it more. So you'll realize if you can get more benefit out of that 4th, then go for it. Otherwise, though, and then the ultimate, getting that level 6 might not necessarily be the case right away. It depends on, I think, your team and how everything's going in laning phase, because the reason you would probably get that at level 6 would be none other than really just recall. I mean, the Blinding Light at that point, not amazing. It's still decent, but it's not great. You don't have a ton of mana to work with quite yet. And the Charging Illuminate, like, if you do that, you don't have other abilities really to use in the... Like, you don't have Mana Leak, you don't have other things to really be doing in the fight except channel your Illuminate. So it's not like that's going to help you a ton. It'll help, but maybe not necessarily a whole lot. So I'm not exactly sure if that's always worth getting at 6. Maybe you can wait till 8 or something, but I don't know.
I think I would. Like, nothing else seems so important that I would pass it up, to be honest. But that's just me, because I do think, like, yeah, Blinding Light, not that big of a deal. But I do think, especially just being able to move people around, those are always powerful spells, in my opinion. So just being able to blast someone back towards you could be the difference between getting a kill and not getting a kill. And again, because it's up, like, most of the time, you are taking advantage of that. I think, even at the earlier parts, right, duration 40 seconds, the cooldown at level 1 is 80 seconds. So 50% of the time, even at level 6, you're being able to use those extra abilities. And like I was saying, if your carry or the person you're supporting has to go back home or has to go somewhere else, you can just pull them back into the lane and ensure that they're farming as much as possible, as quickly as possible.
I see both sides. I'll agree with you. I would probably get it too. I'm just saying I see the potential to not get it. That's all. I just wanted to point it out there. Just
okay.
like that jungle KotL's viable. I'm just throwing things out there that people might not think about initially, but they'll come to be better off for it, maybe.
The real question is, do you get Veil of Discord?
Which is recommended.
It is. It's in the situational.
Yes.
Do you get that before boots?
For regular boots?
Yes.
Oh. No.
Because that's hilarious. I think that's hilarious. Like, 25% more damage? On 500?
Well, to get that combo
I mean, obviously
off
it's really
is
difficult.
very, very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Enigma and Darkseer are probably his best friends. And beyond that, though, maybe you could say Shaker for a wall to keep people at least a little trapped in. And like I said before, what's his name? Oh my god. Disruptor. Another good hero for it. But beyond those, yeah, if you don't have a way to keep people kind of locked in place, then most players of decent skill will know to move to the side and not get hit by this enormous wave of damage.
Yeah, that's very true. But, yeah, I mean, overall, I really like the hero. And we're definitely going to be running Keeper, Chaos Knight, and Venomancer in a tri-lane this week, just so you know.
Okay.
Just, you're welcome to know that. It's fact.
You're welcome to be a part of that, yes.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think that might be wrapping it up, don't you think?
I think so. I also want to talk about, you mentioned don't get stats for instead of other abilities when you're leveling up.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to note, I watched this game where a Vengeful Spirit was maximizing Magic Missile, but then was putting her other points into stats, all the way up to level 7. I was casting the game, and I was just trying to think of the reasons they would do. I'm like, well, maybe he needs a little bit more mana to get maybe a couple casts in a row, or he wants to survive a little better. But I'm like, but when you look at those two other abilities she has, how could you possibly say that it's worth getting stats? It was just, it was hard. But you try to stay not biased in a casting situation. You try to look on the bright side, or look for those reasons that most players will not think of initially,
I think the only thing I could see that would be if you were roaming and the lanes you were going to weren't particularly interested in like attack damage. Like if you were roaming to gank a Storm Spirit lane, well, okay, so getting Vengeance Aura, that doesn't really help them. Armor reduction doesn't really help them. All right, I mean, if I'm primarily roaming and so I'm not in a lane a long time for that Vengeance Aura to really be much of an effect, and the people I'm going to help aren't using a lot of attack damage, I could see it, but
the other thing, though, when you consider support, especially a roaming support, is that you're not getting a lot of experience. So the levels you do get are very valuable, and if you put the point in stats instead of aura, then late game you might only be level 9 or 10, and now you don't have as high level aura or Wave of Terror.
That's why you don't buy boots and you get Hand of Midas. And then you just run through the jungle.
Oh.
Kill them for experience.
Okay, that makes more sense.
You're welcome.
Alright, I think we're good.
Changed your life.
Yes. We're quite. Go ahead and wrap this up, buddy.
Alrighty. Well, obviously, we only talked about one of the 3 heroes that came out, but don't worry, there are plenty of weeks between now and the International that we have to do those, so we'll actually probably do both of those heroes next week. And of course, you guys are welcome to submit stuff for us to look at, to watch, to talk about on our show because obviously, I guess maybe not obviously, but Valve announced there aren't going to be any more heroes before the International, which means me and Jay have to try. LOL. We have to come up with other stuff to do during our cast, so we would love to get some of the viewer stuff involved in this. So, like I said, send questions, send videos, and match IDs, and we will gladly do what we can with those. So until next week, guys, enjoy your Keeper of the Light, and as always, join us here for a little while at Dota On Demand. You can check us out on the Facebook, on the Twitter, on the Twitch, on the YouTube, and Stitcher, and that's all of them. So we'll catch you guys next week.